Okay. Hi. So, I wanted to do a video. It's going to be like two different topics in it though. So, one, it's going to be about being black in the military, or for me, I can speak about being black in the Air Force, and somewhat in the Army too, because I used to be a SWO or staff weather officer, right? Whenever I did Army support, half my career was spent with the Army, so I think I am knowledgeable about that a little bit too. And then also being pretty in the military, things that people don't tell you, right? You just gotta go through it yourself, because if you're anything like me, I didn't have a lot of people that were in the military in my family that could really give me any game about the military. And if they were 20, 30 years removed from the military. So at that time when I was going in, they really couldn't tell me anything, right? So a lot of things I learned on my own. I did not come from a big military family or like people that served and retired. I'm the only person that has retired in my family. Though like my daddy, my uncles, some male cousins, like two that I know of, and my granddaddy did serve, but they did like 2 to 4 years, maybe even 6 years, but then they were out, they got their GI Bill and they went to college, right? So I was going to do that too, but I stayed in. And here we are today. Okay, anyway, so let's talk about being black in the Air Force. Or we're going to say being black in the military. Let me get some agua, okay? So first thing is treatment by non-black people. I will tell you, for me, I think you get treated like any other person. That is a Caucasian or black or Asian, for the most part, by people that are your fellow airmen in the Air Force. I don't think I got treated any differently, but there were times where I know I was treated differently because I was a black person. And usually that would happen when you have older civilians in the work center, people that are like GS-12s, GS-13s, and they were old lieutenant colonels back in the day, and they didn't have no black people working for them, and if they were the gum on the bottom of their shoe. So when they see someone coming through that's intelligent, someone that's beautiful and carries themselves very well, it does something to their psyche, right? So I have been treated differently by those folks, I will tell you that for sure, and I have had some issues with them. But for the most part, I would say 99% of my career, I've been treated no different than my fellow white or Asian or Hispanic airmen. I'm not saying that there is not a racial disparity in the Air Force or in any other service, but from my perspective of what I experienced, for the most part, I was treated just like my other brothers and sisters in arms. Though I'm very much aware of the disparity for black airmen that are men in the military, they have it a lot harder. I know a lot of black men that were serving in the Air Force who either got out because they were tired of being the only black man in the work center, or either they faced extreme racism their first couple years, maybe like the first 2 to 4 years, from fellow supervisors or people that were their supervisor, because they felt intimidated by having that black airman around. I can't make this up. I've heard this story a lot, and I know people aren't lying. So for me, I did get treated like normal. I do think that had a lot to do with my job, which I was a weather forecaster in the Air Force, and how I carried myself and how I took pride in my uniform and how I carry myself as a woman. Not to say that any other black man doesn't do the same thing or hasn't done the same thing and still face discrimination, but from my perspective as a black woman, I can only tell you what I experienced, right? Also, I feel like a lot of my non-black airmen that I've served with treated me a lot better than the other black airmen treated me. I got a lot of shade from fellow black female airmen, and it was just kind of mind-boggling to me. But I'm like, we are all the same. Even if we have different skin tones, we should be, if anything, talking to each other, treating each other with respect, and be like, oh, I see you over there. That didn't always happen. I will let you know that. A lot of times I would get the most shade from other fellow black women, until I got into a work center and an environment where I worked around a lot of mature, intelligent black women that wanted to big up other black women. But it took me literally about 20 years to go through the Air Force before that ever happened for me. Okay. Next, standards. I will say from the time that I came in to the time that we are in now in 2024, the standards when it comes to hair is a lot more better, a lot more relaxed. If you are natural, if you have locks, if you like to wear cornrows, braids, wigs, weaves, whatever. I'm not saying you couldn't have done that years ago, but it's much more accepted and it's within regs now, right? You can have pretty much almost any hair color that doesn't detract from the uniform, no matter what your skin tone is. Before it was like it can't clash with your skin tone. Now you can do you. You can be within the standard of modern day Black women, you know, what they look like outside of uniform. You can still look the same in uniform within bounds. Like you got to have a bun that's certain inches. Your hair can't really touch your collar still, but you have some more leeway when it comes to your hairstyle. So that's a great thing. One thing I will tell you though, that I've experienced myself and I've seen other Black women experience it and they didn't know it, is when you work in a predominantly white environment like the Air Force, or even if well, I'm gonna say that predominantly white environment like the Air Force, and your hair is not straight or you are natural, and like for me, I used to wear braids a lot, and so sometimes you can wear the braids where it's not braided all the way to the end, it's kind of like curly at the ends. I've experienced a lot of white men just staring at my hair like, what am I looking at? It's like, you stare at my ass all day long in uniform, but you have a problem with my hair? Go suck a dick and kick rocks. That's how I really feel. And I've seen plenty other white men stare at other Black women, whether their hair was natural or they were locked up, like locks, like dreadlocks, and just stare at them kind of with disgust. It's kind of like, this is what our hair naturally grows in, or the hairstyle that I'm using and wearing is very similar to my actual natural hair. So if you don't like it, go look at somebody else's hair. And it's funny to me because those same men will be the same men like all in your face trying to holler at you, trying to have sex with you. Or either those are the same men that's into all these sports where all the athletes that they love are Black. Okay, great. So that's that. Work center. For me, I experienced where, like I said, I was weather, so there was not a lot of Black people in that career field, in that AFSC, so Air Force Specialty Code. So a lot of times when I got stationed somewhere, it was me and only one other Black person. So be prepared for that, depending on your job. So I worked a lot with intel or intelligence airmen. I worked a lot with pilots. So even in those career fields, it's going to be far and few between if you see someone African American, to be honest. So be prepared to either be strong in your Blackness by yourself, or either, you know, sometimes people decide to assimilate to the culture, or what we call code switch, so that you can fit in. Now, for me, I don't think I really code switched. I have a very proper sounding voice anyways. My vernacular is on point. My grammar's on point. So for me to have the job that I had, it was really easy for me to maneuver in it because of how I was brought up before the Air Force, you know. But for somebody else who maybe was brought up more urban, it could be a problem. So I didn't mind being weather. I love being a forecaster and observer, but it even got to me sometimes where I figured out and found out that I was the only Black person or one of two. Now, sometimes in my career, there was a time where it was like 5 or 6 of us, and I'm like, yes! And sometimes we got along, sometimes we did not. But if anything, I'm still proud that we were still representing in numbers. And for me, 5 or 6 is the representation, especially in weather career field. Now, if you have a job like you're in a comm, you're working IT, for some reason, it's a ton of African Americans in that career field. Like, I dated a man that was white, that was comm, and he was used to being the minority in that career field. He was used to only being the white person, the only white person there, or it being a handful of whites. So from my experience, I will tell you the dominant Black career fields are going to be when you're security forces, when you're admin, like you're doing admin stuff for like the commander or for a chief or something. So admin, security forces, comm, when you're working services, when you're working finance, like these are career fields where I've been told that it was easy to take the ASVAB and place into. Not to say that anyone that was white or non-Black, other people that were white or non-black weren't smart, or even black that weren't smart that got into these career fields. But it was well known that there was a certain mission essential career fields that where you were placed into, and majority of people there were Caucasian. And the thing is, security forces is mission essential. They will be on base on the weekends, on the holidays, just like weather was, just like intel was, just like air traffic control was. But it's just there's levels to this. So being a weather airman, being an ATC, air traffic control airman, RAPCON, intel, you don't get paid any different than someone else who's non-mission essential, which is what I wish I would have known. But people look at you differently. They look at you as someone that's already a smart individual. I can speak to you intelligently. You're going to understand. It's very sad that is the connotation, but that is what it is, though. So just know that based on your job, you're either going to be around a whole bunch of people that look like you, or you're not, period. So next, let's slide into being pretty in the military. I think I am a cute girl, so I can only tell you my experience. You may think I'm ugly, but I can only tell you what I went through and what I experienced. So shade. I experienced a lot of shade. I got more shade from women than I did from men, obviously. But I will say not a lot of women in the world, or even in general, wear makeup. I feel like it's becoming very popular now over the last 10 years. But 10 years ago, before that, if you wore makeup, you would be like the far few in between that was wearing makeup, to be honest. And so a lot of girls were like, why are you wearing makeup? Why don't you say that for the weekends? Who are you trying to look cute for? Myself and the Lord. I'm walking around here like a big stepper. And just because I'm cuter than you, don't mean you gotta shade me, right? But I experienced a lot of shade just because I did wear makeup, or I like to be presentable, or I like to smell good. Not to say someone that doesn't serve face isn't presentable, but there is a difference, number one, in how you are treated. And this is statistically known that if you wear makeup and you present yourself differently in a work center, like more feminine, you get treated differently and better than the women that choose not to. Not to say I'm doing it for that, because I was a makeup girly before the Air Force, and my mom is very, very beautiful, and she taught me how to do makeup. So this is something I was destined to be. Now, it's not to say that I don't wear makeup in uniform, or I hadn't wear makeup, or that I wear makeup all the time, but there is a difference. And normally girls, they shaded me for it a lot, and I really didn't care. It didn't stop me from being me. And I will say, the other pretty girls that decided to wear makeup, they got shaded too, whether they were white or black. And I've seen where some really cute girls that wore makeup stopped wearing makeup because they were talked about. And it's kind of like, just mind your business. If I'm here to do a job just like you, I can come within regs and still do my job and look better than you at it, period. So there's that. Let's say, oh yeah, so being pretty in the military, men will stare at you nonstop. Not to say that men don't stare at women in general in the military, in military uniform, but when you are attractive, I obviously feel like you attract more attention. And that could be good or bad, so you have to watch your back 24/7, whether you're a woman wearing makeup or not. Watch your back in the military, watch your back in the real world. But specifically, I'm talking about the military, right? So you get a lot of attention. A lot of men will just want to smile on your face. A lot of men will want to do things for you. You do get preferential treatment as a pretty person in the military. I will say that even as a pretty man in the military. When I say pretty, I mean someone that fits that military look standard. Someone that has broad shoulders, someone that's tall, someone that has their chest out, someone that got their hair looking good, whether they black or white, someone that got the fade looking good, got the cut, like I've seen some really good white, black looking men, Italian, African American men in uniform. Like, golly, whether you're a male or female, you do get preferential treatment when you are deemed societally attractive. And sometimes it's called pretty privilege, but sometimes it is a pro to be attractive. And I think for a woman, if you feel like you're not attractive, you can make yourself attractive. I think that is the pro about being a woman. You can do what you got to do to get in where you want to fit in, okay? Lastly, the judgment. I will say attractive women, pretty women get judged the harshest in military uniform or in the military, because number one, you're coming up against the standard of she's pretty but can she do her job. She's pretty and obviously she has pretty privilege and she can get things her way all the time, but is she responsible? Is she someone that we can trust? Is it someone that's not going to be lazy? Is it someone that's not going to not care about other people because she's used to people doing things for her? You will get judged harshly in the military for being attractive. And that, harsh judgment and hate go hand in hand, to be honest. I got judged harshly by a lot of men too. I will tell you, especially with me being a swell staff weather officer when I was doing Army support, it was a pro and a con being attractive, or even just being attractive, I think. The pro is people want to do things for you. People want to look out for you to swell. Like, have you seen a new swell? She got a smile that's worth $1 million. That. And then also it's like, you seen a swell? She thinks she cute. She thinks she look better than everybody. I'm here to do a job. So you will hear comments like that. You'll hear shade like that too. And then what I mean for men, I mean that they will assume, especially when, let's say you've been in the military for a long time and you've reached a certain level, a lot of people will think that you got there because of privilege, even though you had this test for your rank and you had to have the records to show that you were worthy to be promoted. It doesn't matter. People will still judge you off of your exterior. And then a lot of people will think that you can't do your job, so you got to prove them wrong. And it's sad, because if I was a regular black man or a regular white guy, you wouldn't question it at all. You would think of me as another brother, right? But since I'm a sister and as a woman, it's I gotta work twice as hard, and that's on period, right? So I just wanted to tell you some things about what it's like to be black in the military, black in the Air Force, and to be pretty. So if you have any comments, or you can want to share your own experiences, let me know. If you have any gripes about what I said, kick rocks, you can also let me know too. But I'll see you later.